Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he trudged across the scorching Nevada tarmac. The summer heat at Nellis Air Force Base was brutal, turning the concrete into a shimmering mirage that made distant aircraft look like they were dancing. His toolbox felt heavier with each step, loaded down with wrenches, diagnostic equipment, and the portable scanner that had been acting up all morning. At 34, Marcus had spent the last 12 years maintaining military aircraft, and he thought he knew every inch of the sprawling airbase. Today, however, exhaustion was playing tricks on his mind. He had pulled a double shift to cover for a sick colleague, and his usual sharp attention to detail was suffering from too little sleep and too much coffee. His daughter Sarah had kept him up most of the night with questions about her upcoming science fair project. She wanted to build a model of a fighter jet, complete with working lights and sound effects. Marcus had promised to help her after work, but first he needed to complete the routine maintenance check on the F-16 in Hangar 7B. Or was it Hangar 7C? Marcus stopped and pulled out his work order, squinting at the faded print in the harsh sunlight. The paper was smudged with oil stains, making it difficult to read. He was sure it said 7B, but as he looked up at the massive hangar before him, something felt different. The building looked the same from the outside, but there was an unusual number of security personnel around the perimeter. He shrugged off his concerns. Security was always tight on the base, and he had clearance for routine maintenance work. His job was to fix planes, not to question military protocols. Marcus approached the side entrance he always used, swiped his access card, and was surprised when the door opened immediately. Usually there was a brief delay while the system verified his credentials. The interior of the hangar was dimly lit, which was strange for a maintenance area. Marcus fumbled for the light switches, but couldn't find them in their usual location beside the door. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he realized something was very wrong. This wasn't Hangar 7B. Instead of the familiar F-16 he was supposed to inspect, Marcus found himself staring at something that defied explanation. In the center of the hangar sat an aircraft unlike anything he had ever seen. Its surface was smooth and seamless, appearing to be made from a material that seemed to shift between metallic silver and deep blue, depending on the angle of view. The craft had no visible rivets, welds, or panel lines. It looked as though it had been grown rather than built. Marcus set down his toolbox with trembling hands. His first instinct was to leave immediately and report what he had seen, but curiosity rooted him to the spot. As a maintenance technician, he understood aircraft inside and out. This thing before him challenged everything he knew about aerodynamics and engineering. The craft was roughly triangular, but its edges were curved in ways that seemed both alien and strangely beautiful. There were no obvious engines, no exhaust ports, no landing gear that he could identify. It simply rested on the hangar floor, as if gravity had no hold on it. Marcus heard footsteps behind him and spun around, his heart racing. A woman in military dress uniform approached from the shadows near the hangar's office area. She was tall, with striking features and an unusual grace in her movements. Her uniform bore the insignia of a commander, but Marcus didn't recognize her, which was unusual on a base where he knew most of the senior staff. "Chen," she said, her voice carrying a slight accent he couldn't place. "You appear to be in the wrong location." Marcus's throat felt dry. "Commander, I was looking for Hangar 7B. I have a maintenance order for an F-16 inspection. I must have made a wrong turn." The woman studied him with eyes that seemed almost to glow in the dim light. Indeed, you have taken an unexpected path. The question now is what we do about it. There was something in her tone that made Marcus feel both afraid and strangely calm at the same time. He had stumbled into something far beyond routine aircraft maintenance, and his life was about to change in ways he couldn't imagine. I can leave right now, Marcus said quickly. I won't say anything about what I've seen here. I just want to get back to my regular work. The commander tilted her head, considering his words. Mr. Chen, do you love your daughter? The unexpected question caught Marcus off guard. What does Sarah have to do with anything? Everything has to do with everything, as you will learn. Your daughter dreams of the stars, does she not? She builds model aircraft and asks you questions about how things fly. Marcus felt a chill, despite the Nevada heat. How could this stranger know about Sarah's interests? His protective instincts flared, but something in the commander's expression wasn't threatening. It was almost sad. Who are you? Marcus asked. The woman stepped closer to the mysterious aircraft, placing her hand on its smooth surface. The material seemed to respond to her touch, rippling slightly like liquid metal. My name is Zara Veltar, she said, and I believe it is time you learned the truth about what really happens in the skies above your world. As if responding to her words, the aircraft began to emit a soft, musical hum that filled the hangar with an otherworldly harmony. Marcus realized that his simple mistake in navigation had led him to a discovery that would change everything he thought he knew about the universe. The maintenance worker, who had entered the wrong hangar, was about to become part of something much larger than routine aircraft repairs. Marcus stood frozen as the alien craft's humming grew louder, creating vibrations he could feel in his chest. Commander Zara Veltar moved around the vessel with practiced familiarity, her hands gliding over controls that appeared as glowing symbols on the smooth surface. This is impossible, Marcus whispered, his engineering mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Aircraft don't work like this, the physics alone. Your physics, Zara corrected gently. Your understanding is limited to what your species has discovered so far, but you are learning quickly. In 50 Earth years, your technology has advanced remarkably. She touched a panel, and a section of the craft's hull became transparent, revealing an interior filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with soft light. The cockpit, if it could be called that, contained no conventional instruments or controls. Instead, there were flowing patterns of light that seemed to respond to thought rather than touch. Marcus found himself stepping closer despite his fear. You're not human, are you? Zara smiled, and for the first time, Marcus noticed that her teeth were slightly different, more uniform than human dental structure. Her skin, which he had first taken for a healthy tan, now seemed to have an almost imperceptible luminescence. I am what your people call extraterrestrial, though we prefer the term Valkyrian. My true form is, somewhat different from what you see now. This appearance allows me to work alongside your military without causing alarm. She gestured to her uniform. I hold an actual rank in your Air Force, earned through years of service and cooperation. What you have stumbled upon, Mr. Chen, is the most classified program on your planet. We have been working with select Earth governments for 37 years. Marcus sank onto a nearby crate, his legs suddenly weak. Working together? Why? What do you want from us? Not what we want from you, Zara said, moving to a workbench covered with components that looked like a fusion of Earth technology and something far more advanced. What we want for you. My people learned long ago that isolated civilizations either stagnate or destroy themselves. We offer guidance, knowledge sharing, protection. She picked up what looked like a standard aircraft engine part, but when she activated it with a touch, it began to glow and levitate slightly. Your daughter's science fair project. She wants to understand flight, does she not? This component could revolutionize your understanding of propulsion, eliminate fossil fuel dependence, make space travel as common as your commercial aviation. Marcus thought of Sarah, her bright eyes full of wonder, as she asked him endless questions about how planes stayed in the sky. But why the secrecy? If you're here to help, why not announce yourselves? Zara's expression grew somber. Because your species is not yet ready for open contact. Too much fear, too much potential for chaos. Some of your leaders understand this. We work with them gradually, introducing concepts slowly, allowing your people to discover new technologies at a pace they can handle. She moved to another section of the hangar, where Marcus now noticed several Earth aircraft in various stages of modification, components that he didn't recognize or integrated seamlessly with familiar technology. These hybrid systems are tested here, Zara explained. Your pilots fly them, thinking they are experimental Earth technology. Gradually, the innovations filter down to civilian applications. Your GPS systems, fiber optic communications, even the microprocessors in your smartphones have roots in our shared research. Marcus stood up, his mind reeling. And you're telling me this because? Because you have already seen too much to simply forget and walk away. And because, Zara paused, studying his face carefully. Because our psychological profiles indicate you are exactly the type of person we need for the next phase of the program. She activated a holographic display that showed Marcus's complete personnel file, including details about his daughter that weren't in any military database. Information about Sarah's grades, her interests, even her dreams of becoming an astronaut. How do you know all this? Marcus demanded, his protective instincts flaring. We observe, we assess, we care about the future. Your daughter represents the next generation, Mr. Chen. The children who will grow up in a world where the boundaries between species begin to dissolve. She will need guides, mentors who understand both worlds. Marcus felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. You stay away from my daughter. We have no interest in harming her or any child, Zara said firmly. Quite the opposite. We want to ensure that when the time comes for open contact, the transition is smooth for her generation. Children adapt more easily than adults to new realities. She walked back to the alien craft and placed both hands on its surface. The entire vessel responded by becoming translucent, revealing its internal structure. Marcus could see energy patterns flowing through networks that resembled both electronic circuits and biological neural pathways. This is a scout ship, Zara explained, designed for long-range reconnaissance and cultural exchange. I have been on Earth for 12 years, learning your ways, building relationships, preparing for eventual integration. Marcus approached the ship again, his engineering curiosity overriding his fear. The energy source, how does it work? Zero-point energy extraction, combined with controlled gravity manipulation. Your Einstein theorized some of the principles, but your technology is still decades away from practical application. She demonstrated by causing the ship to rise several feet off the hangar floor without any visible means of propulsion. It hovered silently, defying everything Marcus understood about physics. "Mr. Chen," Zara said, lowering the ship back to the floor, "you have a choice to make. You can report what you have seen, though I should warn you that doing so would likely result in your disappearance into classified programs that your family would never understand." "Or?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Or you can become part of this program voluntarily. Help us prepare for the future. Use your skills to bridge the gap between our technologies. Continue your normal life, but with knowledge that your daughter will inherit a universe far larger and more wonderful than either of you imagined." Marcus looked around the hangar one more time, taking in the impossible aircraft, the hybrid technologies, the evidence that humanity was not alone in the universe. He thought of Sarah's bright smile when she talked about flying among the stars. "What exactly would I be agreeing to?" he asked. Zara's smile was both alien and completely human in its warmth. "The adventure of several lifetimes, Mr. Chen, and the chance to help shape the destiny of two worlds." The maintenance worker who had entered the wrong hangar was about to make a decision that would change not just his life, but the future of human-alien relations forever. P. Lee Koi Lee. Marcus spent the next 3 days in a state of controlled confusion. He went through the motions of his regular maintenance duties, but his mind was constantly replaying the encounter in the hangar. Zara had given him a week to decide, and the weight of that choice pressed down on him like a physical burden. On the 4th day, she appeared at his regular workstation during lunch break. To anyone watching, she looked like any other Air Force officer conducting routine business. But when she handed him a clipboard with standard maintenance forms, Marcus felt the paper was different, thicker, with an unusual texture. "Review these specifications carefully, Sergeant Chen," she said in an official tone. "Report to Hangar 7 Delta at 1400 hours for special assignment briefing." After she left, Marcus examined the papers in private. What looked like standard aircraft schematics to casual observation revealed something far more complex when studied closely. The diagrams showed propulsion systems that violated known physics, materials that shouldn't exist, and energy patterns that looked more like living tissue than mechanical components. At exactly 2 p.m., Marcus found himself standing outside Hangar 7 Delta, a building he had never noticed before, despite working on the base for over a decade. His security card opened the door, but when he stepped inside, he found himself in what appeared to be an elaborate briefing room rather than an aircraft hangar. Zara was waiting for him, but she was not alone. Around the room stood 6 other individuals, 3 in military uniforms, and 3 in civilian clothing. What struck Marcus immediately was that none of them looked quite right. Subtle differences in posture, facial structure, and movement patterns marked them as clearly non-human, despite their human appearance. "Welcome to the integration protocol," Zara said. "Mr. Chen, I would like you to meet the current Earth assignment team." She introduced each member. Dr. Sarah Voss, supposedly a materials scientist from MIT, was actually a Valkyrian biochemist specializing in atmospheric compatibility studies. Colonel James Morrison, who Marcus recognized from base leadership meetings, was a hybrid individual with both human and Valkyrian heritage. The civilian team included experts in communication, psychology, and cultural adaptation. Well, long has this been going on? Marcus asked, settling into a chair that adjusted automatically to his body shape. Formal contact began in 1987, Dr. Voss explained, her accent carrying hints of sounds no human throat could make. A Valkyrian exploration vessel experienced system failure during routine survey of your solar system. Your government's response to our emergency landing was unexpected. And air quotes, Colonel Morrison activated a holographic display showing historical footage that Marcus had never seen. Military personnel helping repair an obviously alien spacecraft. Human and Valkyrian scientists working together. Technology sharing that had clearly been going on for decades. Instead of fear or aggression, key leaders chose cooperation, Morrison continued. It was decided that gradual integration would be safer for both species than sudden revelation. Marcus watched footage of his own base during the 1990s, seeing construction of underground facilities he had never known existed. How many people know? Currently, about 12,000 humans worldwide are fully aware, Zara answered. Another 50,000 work in programs with partial knowledge. Thinking they are developing experimental Earth technology, the integration is happening slowly, carefully, with safeguards for both populations. Dr. Voss leaned forward. Mr. Chen, your expertise in aircraft maintenance makes you invaluable. Most human mechanics work with hybrid technology without realizing it. You would be among the few who understand both the original and enhanced systems. But why me specifically? Marcus asked. There are more experienced technicians on this base. Because of Sarah, Zara said simply. Your daughter's generation will be the first to grow up during open contact. We need parents who can help prepare children for that transition. She activated another display showing global demographics and psychological studies. Children born after 2010 show significantly higher acceptance of diversity, technological change, and unconventional concepts. They will adapt to our presence more easily than their parents. Marcus studied the data, his protective instincts warring with his growing fascination. What exactly would happen to Sarah if I agreed to this? Nothing immediate, Colonel Morrison assured him. She would continue her normal life, normal schooling, but she would also have access to educational opportunities no other human child has ever experienced. The holographic display shifted to show a classroom where human and Valkyrian children learn together, using technologies that looked like they belonged in science fiction films. These are the children of integration team members, Dr. Voss explained. They attend special programs that supplement their regular education. Marcus watched his future daughter playing with alien children, using devices that made learning feel like magic. She's always wanted to be an astronaut, he said quietly. By the time she's old enough for space travel, Zara said, the barriers between Earth and Valkyrian space will be minimal. She could literally reach for the stars. The briefing continued for 3 hours, covering everything from security protocols to family support systems. Marcus learned that integration team members received enhanced medical care, educational opportunities for their children, and access to technologies that could revolutionize human civilization. But the cost was complete secrecy from everyone outside the program, regular psychological evaluations, and the knowledge that his daughter's future would be fundamentally different from anything he had imagined. I need to understand something, Marcus said finally. What do you actually want from Earth? What's the real purpose of this integration? The room fell silent. Zara exchanged glances with the other team members before responding. Mr. Chen, the universe is not as peaceful as we would like. There are other species out there, some of which view developing civilizations as resources to be exploited, rather than partners to be cultivated. She activated a star map showing the local galactic region. Several systems were marked with red indicators. These represent territories controlled by the Dominion Collective, a militaristic alliance that expands by conquering or eliminating other civilizations. Colonel Morrison took over the explanation. Earth's location makes it strategically valuable. Your species' rapid technological advancement and aggressive nature could make you either valuable allies or dangerous enemies. The Valkyrian Council decided that partnership was preferable to conquest or elimination, Dr. Voss added. But that partnership must be mutual, beneficial, and carefully managed. Marcus felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on his shoulders. You're preparing us for war. We're preparing you for survival, Zara corrected. The Dominion will eventually reach this sector. When they do, Earth needs to be strong enough to defend itself and valuable enough as an ally to receive protection. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Nevada desert, where human and alien technologies were slowly merging. Your daughter's generation will inherit a universe full of wonders and dangers. We want to ensure they are ready for both. Marcus thought of Sarah's bright eyes, her endless questions about flying among the stars. Now he understood that her dreams might literally come true, but the universe she would inherit would be far more complex than either of them had imagined. If I agree to this, he said slowly, there's no going back, is there? No, Zara said simply. But there's no going back anyway, Mr. Chen. The universe has already changed. The question is whether you want to help shape that change, or simply be swept along by it. Marcus looked around the room, at the faces of humans and aliens working together, preparing for a future that would challenge everything humanity thought it knew about its place in the cosmos. His daughter wanted to fly among the stars. Now he had the power to make that dream possible. That evening, Marcus sat in his small apartment, watching Sarah work on her science project. She had spread airplane models across the kitchen table, comparing wing designs and making notes in her careful handwriting. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she had that focused expression that reminded him so much of her mother. "Daddy, why do some planes need really big engines and others don't?" Sarah asked, holding up two different model aircraft. Marcus felt the weight of everything he had learned pressing down on him. A week ago, he would have given her a simple explanation about weight, lift, and propulsion. Now he knew that within a few decades, aircraft engines might work on principles that defied current physics entirely. "It depends on what they're designed to do, sweetheart," he said carefully. "Different missions need different capabilities." Sarah nodded seriously, then looked up at him with curious eyes. "Daddy, do you think there are airplanes on other planets?" The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. "What makes you ask that?" "Well, if there are people on other planets, they'd probably want to fly around too, right? But their airplanes would probably look really different because their air might be different." Marcus sat down beside her, marveling at her 9-year-old logic. "That's very smart thinking, Sarah. What do you think those airplanes might look like?" She picked up her pencil and began sketching on a napkin. Within minutes, she had drawn something that looked remarkably similar to Valkyrian aircraft design. Smooth curves, no visible engines, elegant and organic in appearance. "Like this, maybe," she said, showing him the drawing. They probably wouldn't need the same kind of engines if their air was different. Maybe they could use the air itself somehow. Marcus stared at his daughter's intuitive understanding of advanced propulsion concepts. Either she was remarkably gifted, or children really were more open to possibilities that adults dismissed as impossible. Sarah, he said slowly, if you found out that there really were people on other planets, and they wanted to be friends with us, how would you feel about that? She considered this question with the seriousness she applied to all important matters. I think it would be really cool. They could teach us things, and we could teach them things. Like having pen pals, but from space. Wouldn't it be scary? Why would it be scary? Sarah asked, genuinely puzzled. Different doesn't mean bad. You taught me that. Marcus realized his daughter was already more prepared for galactic integration than most adults would ever be. The question was whether he was brave enough to give her that opportunity. The next morning, Marcus called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Instead of going to work, he drove to a nearby park and spent hours walking the desert trails, thinking about his choice. His phone buzzed with a text message from Zara. Remember, the deadline is tomorrow. The choice is yours, but consider what legacy you want to leave for Sarah. That afternoon, Marcus did something he rarely allowed himself to do. He visited Helena's grave. The small military cemetery was quiet, shaded by desert plants that had learned to thrive in harsh conditions. He sat beside the simple headstone and tried to imagine what his wife would have said about alien integration programs and their daughter's cosmic future. Helena had been the dreamer in their relationship, always pushing Marcus to take chances, to see possibilities where he saw only problems. She would have embraced the adventure without hesitation. I don't know what to do, Helena, he said quietly. This is so much bigger than anything we ever planned for. A desert wind stirred the sand around the grave marker, and Marcus remembered Helena's favorite saying, "The biggest risks often lead to the most beautiful discoveries." That evening, Sarah fell asleep while Marcus read her a story about space exploration. He tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and made his decision. The next morning, Marcus arrived at Hangar 7 Delta 30 minutes early. Zara was already there, working at a console that looked like liquid light flowing through crystalline matrices. "I've made my choice," Marcus said without preamble. Zara turned to face him, her expression carefully neutral. "And? I'm in, but I have conditions. Name them." Marcus pulled out a handwritten list. "First, Sarah's safety comes before everything else. If this program ever puts her in danger, I'm out immediately." "Agreed." "Second, I want to be involved in every decision that affects her education or future. No surprises. No secret programs she gets enrolled in without my knowledge. Reasonable." "Third, I want regular progress reports on this integration project. If I'm going to be part of preparing humanity for alien contact, I need to understand the bigger picture." Zara nodded. "Anything else?" Marcus hesitated, then added, "I want to meet your people, not just the ones in disguise. I want to understand who we're really partnering with." About the first time since he had met her, Zara looked surprised. "That is unusual. Most humans prefer the familiar appearance. Pans. ... From the first time. My daughter is going to grow up in a universe full of different kinds of people. I need to be comfortable with that before I can help her be comfortable with it." Zara smiled, and Marcus noticed that her teeth were beginning to look less human and more like her natural form. Mr. Chen, I believe you are going to be an excellent addition to our program. She activated a communication device that projected symbols Marcus didn't recognize. After a brief conversation in her native language, she turned back to him. My ship commander will meet us here tomorrow. You will see our true appearance then. She paused. I should warn you, the psychological impact can be significant. Marcus thought about his daughter's drawing of alien aircraft, her natural acceptance of the idea that different didn't mean dangerous. I think I can handle it. Good, because your real work begins now. We have 6 months to prepare you for full integration, and after that, you will help us prepare the next group of candidates. She handed him a device that looked like a cross between a tablet computer and a piece of jewelry. This contains your training materials, basic Valkyrian language, cultural concepts, technological principles, and psychological preparation protocols. Marcus activated the device, which immediately projected a 3-dimensional interface around his hands. The learning system was unlike anything he had ever experienced, feeding information directly into his mind through sensory channels he didn't know he possessed. How does this work? He asked, watching complex diagrams flow through his consciousness. Valkyrian educational technology enhances natural neural pathways, Zara explained. You will learn faster and retain more information than traditional human methods allow. Marcus spent the next hour exploring the learning system, absorbing fundamental concepts about interstellar civilization, alien psychology, and advanced physics. The knowledge felt natural, as if he was remembering things he had always known, rather than learning them for the first time. This is incredible, he said. Sarah could learn anything with this technology. She will, Zara promised, but gradually, carefully, at a pace appropriate for her development. That evening, Marcus sat with Sarah while she worked on her science project. She had refined her alien aircraft design, adding details that seemed to come from pure intuition. Daddy, do you think I could really be an astronaut someday? She asked. Marcus looked at his daughter, seeing her mother's curiosity and courage in every gesture. Tomorrow he would meet actual aliens. Within months, Sarah would have educational opportunities no human child had ever experienced. Her generation would inherit a universe full of wonders and dangers. But they would be prepared for both. Yes, sweetheart, he said, meaning it completely. I think you can be anything you want to be. And for the first time since Helena's death, Marcus felt certain that the future held more possibilities than problems. The maintenance worker who had entered the wrong hangar was about to become something he had never imagined. A bridge between worlds, preparing his daughter and others for a destiny among the stars. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the same hangar where his adventure had begun, but everything had changed. The space now served as a cultural exchange center, where human and Valkyrian team members worked side by side on projects that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Sarah sat at a learning station nearby, chatting easily with Zena, a young Valkyrian whose natural form resembled a graceful humanoid with iridescent skin and large, expressive eyes. The two children were collaborating on a project that involved growing crystalline structures that could store and process information like biological computers. Remember when you were terrified of me? Zara asked, approaching Marcus with her true appearance fully revealed. Her natural form was tall and elegant, with skin that shifted between purple and silver, depending on her mood, and large violet eyes that held depths of ancient wisdom. Marcus smiled. I remember thinking my biggest problem was finding the right maintenance bay. Amazing how perspective changes. The past 6 months had transformed not just Marcus's understanding of the universe, but his entire approach to life. Learning Valkyrian cultural concepts had taught him that fear and curiosity were choices, not inevitabilities. The aliens didn't see differences as threats, but as opportunities for growth and understanding. "Daddy, look what Xena taught me," Sarah called out, holding up a small crystal that pulsed with soft light in response to her thoughts. "It's like a computer, but it's alive." Marcus joined the children at their workstation. "That's incredible, sweetheart. How does it work?" "It's not just technology," Xena explained in her musical voice. "It's partnership. The crystal grows when different minds work together. The more different the minds, the more beautiful the growth." Sarah nodded enthusiastically. "See, Daddy, different really is better. Just like you always told me." Marcus felt a profound sense of completion. His daughter was learning lessons he was still struggling to fully understand, and she was learning them naturally, joyfully, without the fear that had initially paralyzed him. Dr. Voss approached the group, carrying reports from the integration centers around the world. "Marcus, I thought you'd like to see the latest statistics. Children in the program are showing remarkable adaptation rates. Their acceptance of diversity, their problem-solving abilities, their capacity for cooperation, it's all far exceeding our projections." "What about their parents?" Marcus asked. "More variable," Dr. Voss admitted, "but the success rate is still good. Fear decreases with knowledge, and knowledge increases with experience." We'll start introducing Valkyrian cultural concepts through entertainment media, scientific conferences, and educational programs. By the time Phase 3 begins, official first contact, the foundation will be well established. Marcus studied the timeline, seeing his daughter's future mapped out in careful stages. And the Dominion threat? Still real, Colonel Morrison said, joining the conversation. But Earth's defensive capabilities are advancing rapidly. The partnership is creating technologies neither species could have developed alone. Sarah looked up from her crystal garden. "Daddy, are you worried about the bad aliens?" Marcus knelt down to her level. "Sometimes, sweetheart. But do you know what I've learned?" "What?" "That being afraid of something doesn't help you deal with it. Understanding it does. Learning about it does. Working with friends does." Sarah nodded solemnly. "Like when I was scared of the dark, but then you showed me how to use a flashlight." "Exactly like that." Xena added, "In Valkyrian philosophy, we say fear is the shadow of incomplete knowledge. The more you understand, the smaller the shadow becomes." Marcus stood up, looking around the hangar, at humans and aliens working together. At children, learning to see the universe as a place of infinite possibility, rather than infinite threat. His own journey from maintenance worker to cultural bridge seemed like a metaphor for humanity's larger journey from isolation to cosmic citizenship. "You know what the biggest lesson has been?" Marcus said to Zara. "It's that our greatest mistakes often lead to our most important discoveries." Zara smiled, her skin shifting to warm silver tones. "Entering the wrong hangar was not a mistake, Marcus. It was destiny, finding a way to unfold." Voss nodded thoughtfully. "The integration program has taught us something important about both species. Humans and Valkyrians share a fundamental trait. We become our best selves when we're working towards something larger than our individual survival. Sarah and Xena had returned to their project, their crystal garden now glowing with patterns that neither human nor Valkyrian technology could create alone. Watching them, Marcus understood that his daughter's generation would face challenges he couldn't imagine, but they would also have capabilities he couldn't comprehend. "What's the most important thing you want to pass on to Sarah?" Zara asked. Marcus thought about his wife Helena, about the courage to embrace the unknown. He thought about his own transformation from a man paralyzed by an unexpected discovery to someone helping prepare humanity for its cosmic future. "That courage isn't the absence of fear," he said finally. "It's choosing to act in spite of fear. And that the biggest adventures usually begin with the smallest steps into the unknown." Sarah looked up from her work, her face glowing with the same light as her crystal garden. "Daddy, Xena says that in Valkyrian families, they have a saying, 'Every ending is a door to a new beginning.' Is that true?" Marcus looked around the hangar one more time, seeing not the place where his simple life had ended, but the place where an extraordinary future had begun. "Yes, sweetheart, I think it's absolutely true." As the sun set over the Nevada desert, casting long shadows across the airbase where human and alien technologies were slowly merging, Marcus Chen realized that his story was really just beginning. The maintenance worker who had entered the wrong hangar had discovered that sometimes the best way to find your destiny is to get completely lost. The most profound life lesson of all was simple. When faced with the unknown, curiosity is always braver than fear. Understanding is always stronger than ignorance. And love is always more powerful than the urge to run away. In the years to come, as humanity took its first steps toward galactic citizenship, people would remember that it all began with one man's wrong turn, one moment of curiosity overcoming fear, and one father's determination to leave his daughter a universe full of possibilities instead of limitations. Sometimes the most ordinary people, making the most ordinary mistakes, change the course of history itself. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act with wisdom and love despite our fears. Our greatest mistakes often become our most important discoveries when we choose curiosity over terror, understanding over ignorance, and cooperation over isolation. The universe rewards those brave enough to walk through unexpected doors.